Austria at the 40s, at a secret military base, an obelisk, a secret material developed by scientists to create a super soldier, is being prepared for loading. Unexpectedly, a group of unknown assailants, who are not interested in anything with the material, break into the base. Having taken the obelisk, the saboteurs carefully pack it in a metal box and weld it shut, after which the material disappears for decades to come. Our days. After climbing into a bank vault, a random guy finds a strange object in a safe deposit box, after contact with which strange things begin to happen to his body. The big guy has the ability to transform the molecules of his body into any material. Obelisk falls into the hands of the SHIELD agents, leaving a burn on Heartland's arm. Despite this, the leadership orders her to complete the mission and deliver the item to the base. Along the way, the agent asks her partner Hunter to get rid of her hand, and when the guy complies with his friend's request, it seems the worst is over. But all of a sudden, the same guy is on the road, taking the condition of the pavement, and the car ends up on its roof. The big guy isn't interested in surviving Lance. He takes the valuable object from his charred hand and walks away. Melinda arrives at the scene of the accident, but Lance chases his friend away, hoping she won't get caught by the feds. Hunter himself surrenders to the military, who show up. May gets a tip from Phil Coulson and starts chasing an old pickup truck, trying to escape Creel, the guy who stole the obelisk. The girl almost catches up with the mutant, but the commander gives the cancellation because of the large number of civilians. Daisy Johnson flies to the base and tells the boss about the item, which had symbols she already knew. The girl tries to get details from Coulson, but he's more concerned about Hunter being arrested. To Hunter's surprise, they don't bring him to the Bureau's office, but dump him in a field far outside the city. A few minutes later, a helicopter shows up next to the guy, and General Talbot invites the guy for a ride. The agents dismantle the cloaking system, worried that it would upset Fitz if he found out that his job had been taken over by others. The guy just happens to be around at that moment, and his colleagues try to smooth over the poignant moment by inviting him to help with the equipment, but Fitz fails to remember the basic material after recent problems. During the flight, General Talbot tries to ask Hunter why he decided to swap his military career for mercenary work, and the guy admits that love is to blame. The conversation turns to the main topic. Talbot asks to give him Coulson, and Hunter agrees, asking for a large sum in return and a fitting farewell ceremony for his deceased colleague. Phil, meanwhile, rolls up the screens and opens the door for Daisy, who comes in again to find out why Heartland hasn't returned. This time the boss isn't hiding the truth, but he won't let his subordinate go looking for the culprit. Fitz's hallucination shows up again, and the guy complains to his fictional girlfriend that his coworkers are avoiding him. Fantasia advises the guy not to stop and look for an opportunity to neutralize Creel, and to do so, she even shows the guy the document someone forgot in the printer with the mutant's DNA test results. Creel, meanwhile, sits in a roadside cafe, hiding an obelisk under his sleeve. The guy tries to be inconspicuous, but the waitress accidentally touches him while clearing the table and she gets electrocuted. May, all the while, is guarding the mutant outside, in touch with the office. Hearing screams from the cafe, the agent runs inside and sees the waitress turned into a pile of charred remains. After relaying the information to Phil, May concludes that Creel is losing control and everyone around him is in great danger. Hunter returns to town, where he is greeted by his own associate's spikes in the road. After handcuffing his buddy, the agent brings him to the office, straight to Phil's office. Coulson leads the agent into a frank conversation, and Hunter confesses what the general promised him in exchange for information. The boss promises Lance to pay the right amount, and in return the guy promises to disappear as soon as they manage to catch Creel. Fitz continues to study the mutant's tests and has some thoughts. Just at that moment, Mackenzie approaches the guy and the weirdo shares his thoughts with him. Hunter goes to Heartland's room and catches Daisy packing up her friend's things. He is intimidated by her, but she notices the blackening on his neck and offers her help, except that instead of gratitude, the big guy snatches the bar and leaves. A message arrives at the SHIELD's office from Hydra's number, and calling back, Phil recognizes the voice of an old acquaintance, Rena. The girl warns her former rivals that the dangerous obelisk is about to fall into Hydra's hands, and she wants them to help prevent it. Rena informs Coulson that Creel has stolen an expensive ingot from her, which has a transmitter embedded in it that can be used to find him. Phil assembles a squad of his best and gives the go-ahead for Hunter to participate. All the while, Mackenzie is trying to help Fitz figure out the discovery, and finally the guy finds the answer in his old designs, which Mackenzie immediately relays to his colleagues. The agents find Creel and see him making a deal sitting on a park bench. Phil gives the command to split up and follow both men after the exchange, but Hunter eliminates his colleagues. Lance also gets rid of a fellow sniper so that no one will interfere with his deal with the general. Creel all the while begs the customer to help him get rid of the defeat, and finally the businessman helps the mutant get rid of the problem with the power of his mind. The deal comes to an end, and the Hydra representative reaches for the suitcase as suddenly Hunter opens fire. The first bullet flies into Creel, but he manages to become fully metallic and save himself. The mutant catches up with the offender in the hotel lobby and already has his arm over him. Hunter is saved by Phil, who puts Fitz's invention into Creel's back, which destroys the big guy in seconds. General Talbot keeps his word and Hunter sees his partner escorted off with honors. After breaking into her sister's car, Lance hangs Heartland's pendant on the mirror, surprising his boss. Coulson tells Hunter that he's willing to take him back to S.H.I.E.L.D. despite the betrayal, which he believes happened in the name of a good cause. Fitz and Mackenzie continue to discuss technology, and Alfonso asks his buddy how he managed to survive the loss of his partner, Agent Simmons. Leo is hesitant to tell his buddy that there is nothing wrong with the girl in his fantasy and she is still around. Daisy confesses to May that she feels like something is going on with Phil, but Melinda assures the girl that she's imagining it. Once alone, May arrives at the S.H.I.E.L.D. director's office and closes all the windows and doors and turns on the camera to film another of Coulson's seizures, during which he draws strange drawings on the walls. Raina considers the obelisk, which came to her after the operation. The girl's boss orders her to take the thing in her hands, and she has to carry out the order despite her fear, but nothing scary happens. On the contrary, the strange object is covered in glowing patterns, just like on the FIL map. Coulson arrives at the place where General Hunter's plan was to turn in the director. Phil offers Talbot a deal. They give the General Creel's remains for experiments and will hand over the other especially dangerous ones, and in exchange the army leaves the S.H.I.E.L.D. alone. Talbot is about to refuse, but the director shows him the plans of his organization, hinting at their power, and the general decides to cooperate with the agents. Several months pass. After acquiring Creel's body, the general sends him to the lab and manages to restore the mutant. After getting his hands on the boy, Talbot studies the material he is made of and the general hatches a plan to take over the world. Knowing of all the guy's weaknesses, the general visits him and promises to help get rid of the voices in his head and discomfort. Reaching out to Creel, Talbot makes him fluid and pulls him into himself. After reviewing the camera footage, the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents try to figure out what the general is going to do next, and the group goes to his house, guessing that he will want to visit his son. The young men have to act alone, as Coulson is being held hostage on the ship of a secret organization that wants a serum that can destroy the alloy from which the superheroes are created. The agents are not mistaken. Talbot does come to the family, but it proves impossible to capture him. Having built up his strength, the general overturns cars and gives the attackers a fight back. Having been defeated, the group reports this to Coulson, and the director is about to develop his plan to capture the former general, but he does not have time to do so. During the battle, his hand came into contact with the toxic alloy, and the process of destruction began. Gathered together, the agents discuss all possible options, and it turns out that they have only one dose of the serum, and they have to choose to save Coulson or save the whole world by destroying Talbot with the serum. The group splits in half. One part believes that Coulson must be saved, while the other part believes that saving the world comes first. The argument leads to May breaking the last test tube. Fitz promises to work on a cure, but in the guy's opinion, the end of the world is inevitable. Talbot abducts a seer girl to his ship, who has seen him surrounded by space metal that can enhance the villain's abilities, but despite the general's entreaties, the girl refuses to name the place. Coulson regains consciousness and is visited by Rodriguez. The girl apologizes for being against saving the director, but the boss reassures her and admits he would have done the same. The agents fly to Chicago. That's where Talbot was reported from. By this point, the superhero villain is already beginning to destroy the city, extracting bits of precious metal from the ground. During Coulson's illness, the group selects Mackenzie as a senior, and the agents prepare for a dangerous operation to eliminate the former general. S.H.I.E.L.D. evacuates the men and informs the emergency services of his arrival. The providential girl also manages to be freed, but her mother isn't around. Mackenzie goes looking for the woman, but gets trapped. In the meantime, Talbot continues his destruction, but Daisy knocks him down and asks him to stop. The girl reminds the general of his fighting glory and of his son, who fears such a change in his father. Pretty words do not impress the villain. He is going to see what he has started to the end in grabbing Daisy. He lifts her to the sky and then abruptly lowers her down, trying to shatter the ground. Daisy seizes the moment and injects herself with the serum. Becoming several times stronger than Talbot, the girl fights back so that the former general ends up in outer space and immediately freezes. Some agents don't survive the battle, and Mackenzie has to support one of his friends, seeing him take his last breath. Coulson, on the other hand, gets better, and the group prepares for the director's return. Gathered aboard the plane, the agents raise their glasses to all those who have not lived to see this day, to another victory, and to Coulson, who is retiring. The touching farewell comes to an end and Phil leaves, leaving the ship to his charges to continue saving the world.